The cast and guests of Inside IOST do not intend to convey investment or financial advice. Please do your own research before choosing to buy or sell any digital assets or cryptocurrencies. All right, folks, another week is upon us. This one is a pretty important one, the IOST Mainnet launch. You are here watching Inside IOST. We are the first and the best IOST podcast. I'm joined here.
Smash that like button. Oh, come on, guys. Come on, a little more energy here. It's Mainnet launch. Olympus has risen.
So I am joined here, obviously remotely, by Mr. Pete K. Pete, how you doing today?
Doing great. Feeling good.
Also, to my left here, I have Mr. Josh Bryant.
Hey,
Josh, how's it going?
Buddy, it's Mainnet today. Going great.
Today is a big day, and we are together the Liobe node. We appreciate everything that all of our voters have done for us. So first and foremost, just want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we dive into all the latest and greatest news from IOST. Since the last time you've seen this show, which was about a week ago, we have actually been voted for significantly by a lot of people out there. And we're really happy about that. We want to say thanks again. And we're going to do everything in our power to make those votes count for you. There's going to be a lot of rewards coming out, which we're going to dive into a little bit later on in this episode. But we've actually moved from 72nd to 36. So pretty much cut in half how high we've gone. And Pete, I know you were talking about hopefully next week we'll be 18th, and then the week after we'll be 9th. So
thanks to all our voters.
Yes.
It's really great.
Yeah, we love it. And when those votes come in, it feels good. It's like, wow, we actually did a lot not a lot yet, but hopefully we're going to continue to do a lot and see those votes roll in. And, even if you have 1,000 votes or you're spreading your votes amongst different people, we definitely appreciate it. We take note of that, and we'll keep shouting you out as long as the show's going on. So, of course, the big news, as we've kind of already announced here, is the mainnet launch. We just got an email like 5 minutes before we went on the show here. The name of the mainnet is Olympus, so it's going to be a big deal. Olympus is like the highest mountain in Greek mythology. Is that right, Pete?
Yeah, and I wonder if there's a bit of a contest here, because Eos is actually a Greek goddess too, Aurora.
Wow.
So hey, maybe there's a little bit of challenge, right? You're one god, well, we're all of them.
Yeah, Olympus is where all the gods live, right? That's like Zeus's home turf.
Yep.
Wow, it's going to be amazing to see how this battle plays out on the blockchain. So anyway, now that we kind of did all the housekeeping, I want to just give people a heads up. Tonight is the mainnet launch. And if you head over to @IOSToken, that's the IOST official Twitter, you'll be able to see Jimmy Jong and the team. They'll be doing a mainnet launch kind of live stream thing. So definitely keep a lookout for that. Once you get done viewing Inside IOST today, head over there tonight to take a look at what's going on. Now, as far as Liobe, we are going to be a block producing node. That has always been the plan. And Pete, you are kind of our tech guy. You've been kind of working on that. Can you give us a little update on how we are doing personally with the node production or with the block production as Liobe node?
Kind of. I mean, come on, I am the tech guy. Come on, let's be honest, Evan. All right, so yeah, we got IOST, we got our Liobe node up on mainnet. I was working over the weekend to get that going. We're running on DigitalOcean, running a node. It's a powerful beast, and it is right now on the blockchain, on the mainnet, receiving blocks. We're not actually making them yet, because the iOS team has to do something for us real quick first, but hopefully we'll get that going on in the next day or two, and we will be a full functioning, producing Servi node.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. So I'm watching blocks streaming in right now. They produce about every half second, which is the same as EOS's block time, and there's a block reward of something like 3.3 IOST for each block. Every producer that produces that block gets 3.3 IOST.
We did the math on that. So if you're watching in your node in the IOST network and you didn't know, about 3.3 IOST is going to be the block reward. And we'll have to see how that continues as we go forward with the Servi distribution and all that. I wanted to dive into a little bit of the reward info. There's been quite a few articles produced lately talking about how these rewards are going to get distributed. Some go to voters, some go to just block producers, some go to content creators. Pretty much everyone in the ecosystem's covered. And Josh, you wanted to talk about that a little bit. Let's dive into that.
Yeah. So the word is out on the breakdown of these different rewards. There's going to be two main categories of the rewards. One is the token issuance reward, and that's going to make up 2% of the total annual rewards. There's going to be 840 million total annual rewards, and half of that will be token issuance reward. The other half, the other large group, is the ecosystem reward pool. So half and half there. Now, within the ecosystem reward pool is the contribution reward and also election rewards. And the contribution reward is a really great thing about this ecosystem, where it isn't just block producers who get rewarded for having a machine set up that's producing blocks, but it's actually rewarding people who are contributing to the ecosystem. And IOST has 5 separate categories that have been set up for those rewards. Content creation and promotion is the first one. The second one is, and so that's like inside IOST, what we're doing here. Yep. The second one is dApps. So we have our dApp studio here, Dappiness. The third one is integrations like wallets and exchanges and explorers. The fourth one is events, meetups, and hackathons. And then finally, the fifth one is community building. And anyone can contribute to these 5 separate categories. And what IOST is going to do is rank those contributions. So, for instance, inside IOST will be in the content creation and promotion category, and they'll rank our podcast based on the quality of the content, views, clicks, and shares, enjoyability, and watchability. And then 50% of those contribution rewards will go to the voters. So if you vote for Liobe, you should make sure to like the podcast, to share the podcast, because that's how the contributions will be ranked. So it's a great way to provide incentive for partners to kind of get the word out about IOST, and you can be rewarded for it as well as a voter. You don't have to be running a node.
Yeah, so my question is, can our voters just put their YouTube or their podcast on loop to get us more views and thus get themselves more rewards?
I don't know. It's a good idea.
I don't know. That seems a little bit sketchy. I think that hopefully the network will have some ways to protect against stuff like that going on. But it's a good idea. It's a good thought. One of the things that I actually do like about this a lot, though, is if you are just in the IOST network and you're voting and you do like something that someone's contributing, be it content, be it a dApp, then it kind of like is like one hand helping the other. I forget the expression, but you basically will be able to vote for people that are contributing well, and from there, if everybody likes it or if you like it enough that you're sharing it with other people, then the more contribution rewards we get, then you'll actually get rewarded for voting for someone that has good content.
So if you like Inside IOST by voting for us, not only are you helping us in producing more content, but you're also helping yourself because you'll get rewarded for that vote.
Yeah, very cool. I like it. So, sorry, just going through here, we had some technical issues, so we're trying to deal with that. One of the things I also wanted to cover here was the contribution rewards and how that they're going to actually choose who is going to get the contribution rewards. Everything else is pretty much based on elections, votes, and then actual block rewards.
Right.
But the contribution rewards is going to be based on the actual IOST Foundation and then the ICAC making choices on who created the best content or who has the best dApp. Some of that can be objective, I guess, with users, daily active users, things like that. But eventually they are going to look to decentralize the process. And I really like that because it takes away from that ability for the IOST Foundation to continuously choose their own friends or however that can be abused. Pete, you can be the guy. Maybe we look into creating some kind of dApp or something where we could have people vote for the contribution that they like.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that, actually, yeah. But overall, I wanted to throw in here that we kind of got rewards a little bit wrong in the last episode. We're almost up to date, but we had a little bit of old info because voters don't get 50% of the block reward, like I said. They get 50% of all the other rewards. They get 50% of the contribution reward. Mm-hmm. They get 50% of the election reward, and it's all kind of a little bit hard to grasp. Maybe we should put up a graphic or something of how the voter rewards break down.
Yeah, well, we did have Pete with his whiteboard going on. We had a meeting about 30 minutes. We were about 30 minutes into a meeting before we decided to run the show just so we ourselves could get the whole reward ecosystem figured out. And based on the articles that we've seen come out of IOST, from their official Medium, which is a great place to keep up with what's going on from the IOST Foundation. We've come up with this little graphic that we'll put up on the screen. Had it on the screen earlier when Josh was talking about specifically the rewards. And this is really a breakdown of how we're going to see these rewards go. Especially, this isn't, we don't want to just be kind of giving this information just for voters, especially voters that are voting for us. Obviously, you're our favorite, but, this is good for people who are block producers as well. And other people who are going to contribute to the community, because if everybody's informed, everybody's, it's easier for everybody. And I think and I'll ask you guys your opinion on this too. Like, in my opinion, I really like the way that they've set this up so far. And obviously, as we move along, we're going to make changes to it. We're going to have proposals. It's going to be kind of like an open air kind of, make your suggestions and let's try and kind of push that through if something needs changed. But so far, I think that there's a lot of incentives for people to get involved with this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I remember when EOS hit the mainnet, right? Very quickly, the top 21 block producers hit, and it felt like they would be impossible to dislodge for a number of reasons. One, because they had so many votes for them already, and also, it kind of felt like a lot of them were from the same geographical area. I feel like with IOST, it's going to be broken down a lot more. The barrier to get in is lower. And already you can see just from the meeting that we had, nodes from all across the world who are going to be able to produce blocks, who are going to be able to contribute to the system. So you can tell they've put a lot of thought into how to decentralize this more, right? And I like that about IOST.
Pete, what are your thoughts so far on it?
Yeah, the primary concern, I think, with DPoS systems, and IOST isn't DPoS, distributed proof of stake, but it's similar because there is kind of a threshold to become a node, right? You can't just go plop 5 IOST down and become a node. So we're going to have an unlimited but, set number of nodes. Basically, there can be an unlimited number of nodes. There's no cap on it, but we're going to end up with maybe a couple hundred or whatever, right? And all these systems that have limited numbers of nodes, they tend to form cartels. And I'm really interested in the things that IOST is doing to stop cartels. Like Josh said, there's like a set number of block producers at the top of the EOS block production logs, right? There's China really rules it. There's just a major amount of Chinese block producers. They're all friends with each other. We think they maybe vote for each other, and that's fine and good. They're taking advantage of the system, but we want to build a system where it's hard to do that. And I'm encouraged by IOST's 1 token, 1 vote. I'm encouraged by decentralizing rewards. Like Josh was saying, you can't get rewards for multiple tiers. We could build the Awesomest app and have the Awesomest podcast, but we'd still only get the massive reward for one of those, not 2 of those categories. And I think we should always keep that in mind, because there's networks like Lisk that have just succumbed to cartels. There's these groups of producers that get in together and no one can possibly dislodge them or vote them out because they all vote for each other and they have all the power. And I'm encouraged by where we're heading, trying to decentralize things more. And I think that we need to keep doing more, keep thinking about it more.
Yeah, Pete, I think when we were talking last week, you brought up something that I thought was really interesting, where you said proof of work, like DPoS, and even now this proof of believability is almost still proof of work, because us being the Liobe node, we still have to get everything set up on the server side. We still have to make sure that we're producing blocks correctly. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, to get votes from the community, we have to be providing good content. We have to be honest and open about it and be consistent with it. So in a way, it is still kind of proof of work. It's just a different way of doing the work.
Different kind of work.
Oh yeah, that's totally true. You still have to work hard. It's not technically proof of work, but we're only producing blocks because we worked for them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it, and we'll have to see how things work out here with the whole proof of believability and the survey. Now, one thing that we didn't talk about in the pre-show note forming thing was the actual survey being distributed. Do you guys? I'm a little bit ignorant on this front. Do we know anything yet about how that's going to work?
Well, we're a survey node right now, so any of these block producing nodes are survey nodes. So when you say being distributed, what do you mean? Because
the survey is actually an asset that we have to be awarded, and then from there we would burn it, I guess, for lack of a better term, to produce the block. Do we have any info on that, how that's going to work yet?
I haven't actually seen anything recently on that. I'll look and get back to you. Basically, we could talk about it next week. The focus of the team hasn't been on that, recently.
Okay, yeah.
So
we'll definitely, I'll make a note for us to dive into that a little bit next week as well. Moving right along here, though, one thing I do want to talk about was there were over 50 nodes who participated in an online Zoom meeting with the ICAC and the people from IOST. Jimmy was on the call as well, Jimmy Jong. And I just thought that was a really cool thing, an awesome kind of community building, get to know your neighbor type thing. Over 13 different countries were represented. Pete, myself, and Brian, Josh were all on the call. And what were you guys' thoughts on that?
I loved it. I mean, I liked it was video, so you could see people from all over the world. You just realized how decentralized it is. People got to speak about what their nodes are going to be doing to support the ecosystem. I really enjoyed one from EOS Venezuela when they spoke about some of the things that they're doing, and of course, their country is going through a lot of financial turmoil right now. And I think his hope is that blockchain, specifically IOST, can help solve some of those problems. So I was really impressed by his presentation, and I see a lot of names on the voting page, but it actually helped me put a name to a face. So I enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, and if anyone wants, there's a summary of that meeting with like little notes on what everybody said up in an ICAC on their Medium somewhere. I mean, I guess we can link to it. There's a summary of what we said, what IOST Best from Russia gave a presentation. There's people from all over the world there, from the UK, from China, from, like Josh said, Venezuela, Brazil, and sometimes Ukraine. Attic Labs was there, and they're like a number 5 block producer on EOS. So a lot of entities are already block producers on EOS, and they've got that experience and to some degree that infrastructure to come onto IOST and also produce for IOST. And this isn't a new thing. EOS producers are producing for multiple other chains too on EOS.io, like Telos and Warbly, things like that. And I guess it's up to the community to decide whether they like better block producers that produce on a lot of different chains or block producers that remain focused on one chain. As far as I know, Liobi is just planning to do IOST, right?
Yeah, I don't think we have any plans otherwise. But yeah, I was very impressed with a lot of people on the call. A lot of projects, or a lot of people on the call, a lot of nodes or candidates already very deep into projects, already showing kind of like MVPs of their DApp, or like you said, Pete, there were some presentations that people were talking about with some pretty in-depth roadmaps and things like that. So, as far as Liobi goes, obviously we're going to keep you up to date with the news every week on the Inside IOST podcast. We also have the Dappiness Studio, which is right now, hopefully in Q2, going to release, one of our dApps on EOS, but quickly looking to turn it over into an IOST dApp after that. And then some dev outreach, which, we would love to maybe do an episode, Pete, where we just kind of focus on that, maybe like an introduction to dev outreach with some documentation or some video tutorials or something like that.
Oh, yeah, totally. I would be excited about that. The documentation is still kind of forming, but people are building things. They've been building things on testnet for a while, and some tutorials on how to build and launch an application on IOST. There's a lot of JavaScript developers out there, and IOST's JavaScript smart contracts. I think that'd go a long way. It's definitely in the roadmap here.
Excellent. Well, fellas, I think that just about wraps up all the news. We tried to get this one in before Mainnet launches because tonight, as we mentioned, Jimmy Jong on the official iOS token Twitter is going to be doing the live stream of the launch of Olympus, which has us all pretty excited. So we'll be back here next week to kind of talk about Mainnet launch, talk about how our block production is going flawlessly, and all the other IOST news and happenings from around the world. So we are powered by Liobi. If you enjoy this podcast, if you enjoy this on YouTube or on any of the podcast mediums out there, please head over to the IOST voting portal and feel free to vote for Liobi. We greatly appreciate it. And smash that like, ring the bell, do whatever else helps us out, and let's build this community together.
And we're on Apple Podcasts now and a bunch of others, Spotify, Google Play. So if you'd like to take it to your car, you're going to work or whatever, subscribe to the IOST Inside IOST podcast on those platforms.
All right. So for Josh Bryant and for Peter K, I am Evan Schindler. This is Inside IOST. It is the first and the best IOST podcast. We'll see you next week.